Okay, well, it's going live. We are now live. Okay.
People who lived in this city of Trid. And what happened was, I'm probably going to mess this up, but Trid had this hill, and there was an ogre that lived at the top of the hill. So the mayor has got a problem. He doesn't know what to do. So he finally decides, we got to take care of this ogre. He's beating up people. People are getting injured. So he sends the army up to the top of the hill. And this ogre just kicks them all down. They all roll down the hill. That was the end of it. So the city council gets together. What we should do? Okay, we're going to send the priest up there. Maybe he could talk some sense, you know. Priest goes up there, right? And he starts to talk to the ogre, and he just kicks him down the hill. So they finally said, well, maybe we'll send the rabbi. So, okay, you send the rabbi up there. The rabbi goes up there, and he starts talking to him. He says, you know, he's having a nice conversation with the ogre. He said, I don't understand. You didn't kick me down the hill. He says, oh, silly rabbi. Kicks are for trids.
Don't get it? Am I supposed to get it?
The cereal trick.
Cereal.
Kicks.
Okay.
Trick is,
Okay. It only gets worse from here. This class is supposed to be fun. I do not
It's
really,
starting off fun.
and I don't want to really get into any halakhic issues. We can discuss them at the end if anybody wants. So the first thing I would, let's go over what we need to make either what we call a Sefer Torah, tefillin, mezuzahs, Megillah, all those things. So the first thing you need to have is what we call cloth. Does everybody know what cloth is?
Yep.
Okay, so this is cloth. Usually comes from cow. Does anybody else would know what some Torahs are made out of? Very rare, but it happens. Deer. You're not supposed to answer the questions. You know all the answers. Okay, so yes, I've worked on maybe 3 Sefer Torah that are made from deer hide. They're very hard to work on. If you ever get to Newport, Rhode Island, you go to the Torah Synagogue, they have one in there. So what? Yes, oh dear. So he's making it bad. Okay, so what happens is that when you make the cloth, what happens is you have hair on one side, okay, the skin, you have to take it off. Use chemicals usually to do that, and then you string it up, you make little holes in it, and you pull it out. When you're doing that entire process for a Sefer Torah, the cloth has to be made specifically for a Sefer Torah, okay? I have this cloth for repairing Sefer Torah because it's special and has been made lishma for making a Sefer Torah. Similarly, you have the same thing, but doesn't have to be made lishma for tefillin, because this is typically what you would write tefillin on. Now, there's 2 parts to tefillin. Okay, there's a shell yad and a shell rosh. I have them over here. And in the tefillin, let's go to the shell rosh. I don't want to pull this out, but you see there are hairs here. This is what wraps it. Can everybody see those hairs there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here I'll pass. Please don't lose this, but these are the saros, the hairs that are used to wrap the shell rosh, the shell yad, and it's made of one piece. I like to make a joke, especially this time of year, about asking people, are they going to sell their tefillin, right, for Pesach? They're like, what do you mean I sell my tefillin for Pesach? It says, it mentions chametz twice in the parshas.
Oh,
right? In the parshas, in the tefillin, it has the word chametz twice.
Very good.
But I'll pass this around, this piece, if you could just kind of give it, and you could get an idea of what that looks like.
What kind of hair is it?
They're either cow or some people use from a horse.
Okay.
Now you see here in the rosh, the rosh is made. The rosh is in 4 sections. You only have one section in the, I'm sorry, that's the Rosh, one section, all written, all the parches one after the other. And in the yes. And then in here, you see, you have 4 different sections. And but the interesting to note in here is that if you look on one side and look on the other side, look at the difference between the shin on the top. And tell me what the difference is when you can figure that out. Okay, roll this back together.
That's a good question.
Did you pass these around?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to move stuff out of the way because I got a lot of junk here. And everybody saw it. Did everybody get to feel the cloth? And
Yeah, this is.
Do you know what kind of hairs those are? Are they cow or are they?
I usually pick them up someplace.
Oh, okay, so we don't,
They're inexpensive.
no, so we don't know what kind of hair they are.
Okay.
They are. So it's
But
got
some people use
a
horse.
long-haired cow, because those are pretty.
Yeah, they take care.
They use horse even though it's not a kosher animal?
Some people they claim they do. Okay. So,
You are aware that this is not plugged in anymore, Moshe?
I prefer you
I don't
don't,
think you're
because
supposed
once it's pulled out, it's impossible to put them back in without a lot of effort. But if you really must, you can do it.
No, I won't. That's fine.
But Moshe, this is not plugged in anymore. You know
I know,
that?
I'm
Oh, you
plugging
did
it,
that on
but
purpose.
it's too, a little bit too hot.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as you know.
Everybody's seen this
No, I
cloth?
didn't.
Okay.
You put this on this table?
Oh, wow.
Yes, you could put that over there. Just put it beyond.
Okay.
Well, there's-
Sorry, I'm just trying to move stuff out of the way to see what I have left.
Okay.
Okay, any questions so far?
Yeah, so it was a four,
There are 4 sections for 4
no,
different,
the shin. On one side.
yes, on
four,
one side it has 4 and the other has 3.
Why?
That's a good question. There are a number of different reasons, and I really don't know. What do you want to say?
The clef? Oh.
Okay,
Here.
now, when we get to Sefer Torah, I guess we're going to go over and take a look at the Sefer Torah. I took one out so we can look at it, but we'll do that in a couple minutes. Put that over there. Okay, just want to see what I have left to do. I want to show these. We'll get to the Sefer Torah. Okay, so we need cloth. Okay,
Cloth means.
the cloth means the parchment.
That's what you're right on.
If you don't have parchment, you can't write a Sefer Torah, mezuzah, or anything. The other thing you need is what?
Ink.
You need ink. Does anybody know say it in Hebrew?
D.O.
D-O. Okay. And we're going to talk about ink. Ink is a very interesting thing. What I did in the mid-1980s, when I was learning software, I said, I'll go buy some ink, right? Ink is very expensive. There's like one family in Yerushalayim who made it for generations, maybe hundreds of years, I don't know. And they wanted like $50 for a little bottle of ink. And I said, mm-mm. So I decided I'm going to figure out how to make my own ink. But not only did I make my own ink, I made it better. And I spoke to many poskim about it.
What's the limitations for making ink?
There are a lot of halachas. There was something like, I once read 4,000 halachas related to writing Torahs, mezuzahs, and ink, and all that kind of stuff. Generally, people use black ink, okay? But there are occasions you can use other kinds of ink. But typically, the custom today is only to use black ink. And the black ink that we use is no secret. It is something called iron gall ink, G-A-L-L ink. And I went through all the Gemaras and figured out what it is, okay? It's no big deal. So, for all the Talmid Chachamim in here, what is the number 1 tree mentioned in all of Tanakh, a specific tree in Hebrew?
shittim tree?
How many times is it mentioned in the Torah?
In the last few weeks, it must be 25, 30 alone.
There are 28 times it's mentioned in all of Tanakh, okay, and 27 of them are in the Torah. Shittim. What is shittim? What is it called in English? Does anybody know?
Yes, but I can't remember.
Is that acacia?
What?
Acacia?
Acacia. Excellent. Acacia. Now, this is where it gets really bad, okay? Because what I did was, so you take acacia from the tree, from the bark and in the inner parts of the bark, okay? It makes this gummy stuff, which you see right here. But I bought highly purified lab grade acacia, you see? This stuff is pretty inexpensive. And unfortunately, when it's in this form, they call it what? Does anybody know? Anybody at the other table? No. It's called gum arabic. Has anybody heard of that? So gum arabic comes from shittim, right? Okay. So we could have called it gum Yehudi, I don't know, but it didn't work out that way, okay? And all it is it's like gum. Actually, in olden days, they would use it as actual gum, you know, like a chewing gum, because it gets thick. I didn't make this as thick as I could, but it's pretty thick. And you see it went from going white to almost like this brown color. Okay, the next thing you use, okay, is something called gall, G-A-L. Remember I told you it was iron gall ink.
Mhm.
Well, gall usually comes on hardwood trees. It grows on the tree, but it's not the tree. Okay? These came from Portugal. You're welcome to take one out and touch it. These are little gall balls or galls. You will mostly see them here. Right. Okay. These you'll see them a lot of times on oak trees and whatnot. You say people think it's the part of the oak tree, but it is. What happens is you get an infestation on the tree, and it starts to grow these little balls.
So that's not a natural thing for the tree to grow?
No, it does not come from the tree. It's not part of the tree. But you only usually find them on like sandalwood, oak, other trees like that. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just, maybe I have some, no, I guess I don't have any pictures.
Is it a parasitic relationship between the
It
ground?
somehow or other it makes an infestation and then it starts to grow and I think it gets nutrients from the tree. So it's maybe more parasitic or something of that nature. So here's the gall.
This
And
stuff
then
that's very bitter, it's called bitter, right?
you're welcome to taste it. Here you go. Here's
I
one.
just did my CPR training, so
Here you
it's
go.
okay.
It won't kill you, but anyway, this is one broken up so you could see it. Okay, I broke one so you could actually see what it looks on the inside. And here's a picture of what it looks like on the trees.
It looks like it's growing on the tree.
I know, but it is sort of growing on the tree, but it's not like part of the tree.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have two of the parts. We have the gum arabic. We have the gall, right? Now what's the first part of the ink I said we had? Iron
What is this used
gall ink.
It's part of the
It's
ink.
part of the ink, Sure.
It's made up in the ink. You will see in a few minutes how amazing this is.
How did someone know to use that?
Oh.
I don't know, but you could say about anything,
There you go.
we have today.
That's true.
It's drinking, I thought that was
It is, but I'm talking so much, you guys are making me talk so much, I need to drink. Okay. Now, the next thing is,
What makes it black?
we will
We're gonna get
messed
that.
up. It's
just wait.
This young lady must be a scientist.
Well, I'm a scientist.
You do, you
Okay,
great.
so-
Very
okay.
golden.
Now, so what comes out of there is something which instead, in a gall ball, right, or, what do you think you have? And there you have gallic acid. That's one of the ingredients that you need. It wasn't hard to figure this out because these formulas have been around for 10,000 years, maybe. I don't know.
A long
Yeah.
time.
A
Before the
long
world was
time.
created, you mean?
So I bought purified gallic acid, okay? It took me a while to figure out the exact amounts because I had to figure out how much was in each species and figure all that, but it wasn't that difficult. And there's a lot of research on it because the historians like to know these kinds of things, so they did a lot of the work for me. And then you get to something here called ferrous sulfate, which is the iron part of the iron gall ink. Now, it's not ferric, it's ferrous. It's in a lower oxidation state, but that's a whole different class. This, okay, in the Gemara, right, is called vitriol. Has anybody heard of vitriol?
Vitriol, in modern terms, is sulfuric acid.
Yes, but for our terms, it's ferrous
Okay.
sulfate, which is a combination of iron and sulfuric acid. Okay? So I skipped a few steps there.
Okay.
What?
Fe,
FeSO2, if I remember.
Okay,
FeSO2?
it would be Fe3SO4.
3.
I can't remember that stuff
Okay.
anymore. It's too many
Okay.
years.
So, and then what we do is we combine these all together and we get to make our ink. So I'm going to try to do that now.
Oh, right in front of us?
Yeah, so you won't be asking too many more questions after you see this.
Gary?
Okay.
Yeah, just back up a little bit, like.
Sorry?
Yeah. You can all come up closer if you like. I'm going to try to,
I'm gonna move a few things around here, Rabbi, if you don't mind.
as long as you move them back.
I'm a photographer, we just move stuff, and then my assistant moves stuff back.
You're good with that, okay. Okay. Can you move this?
Yes.
Table, thank you. Okay, so I am going to wear my gloves. Did you move it? Give me another glove back. The reason is that the vitriol, even though it's in a solid form, is very vitrolic. So you don't really want to get this on your hand when it's concentrated. Okay. I have that little sheet right here that says Moshe on, come towards me.
This
right
one?
here, the one underneath, just so I know how much to put in here.
You have a phone, you can take pictures.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up to use the gallic acid.
And that's gallic, not garlic.
Yeah, you taste it, you'll know it'll kill your liver.
No.
It is an acid. It's pretty weak, but okay, so I'm going to
Yeah,
add
Gary,
this in
turn that so
here.
we can see this bit.
Too late. Where's the phone?
So you're using rough measurements.
What?
You're using rough measurements.
No, I used exact measurements.
That
I used a
teaspoon is-
tablespoon. That's pretty exact.
See the camera right there? You gonna post
Okay.
It's better than to pinch with your finger.
No, I know that, but I wouldn't consider that plastic spoon.
You get the peanut gallery here.
Paparazzi.
Okay, so I got the gallic acid in there, and this should go in here and maybe almost make it whiter than it is. I need to get it kind of mixed in here. Okay. You want to plug
Yeah.
that in back in for me so get a little heat going on here?
Okay, it's on.
So this guy's going to take a few minutes before it gets warmed
The
up.
lumpies out.
What?
Get the lumps out.
Yeah, I know. I got to get the lumps out. Okay. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Well, I'm trying to get the lumps out and get this a little bit. This hot plate is really hot. So I've been turning it on and off, to try to regulate the heat. So I've had it off maybe a little bit too long, but if it's working the way I think it should be in here in a few minutes. So what I'll do is while I'm getting the vitriol ready, I will ask Rabbi Saunders, I asked him to do a little section on the mitzvah of mezuzah. So maybe you could do that while I'm getting the vitriol ready.
Okay.
And
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we can hear it from here. So, Rabbi Moshe asked me to speak about the mitzvah of mezuzah, the importance of mezuzah. So we know that we say it every day in Shema, twice, at the end of the first paragraph and the end of the second paragraph. Which literally translates as you have to write the words of Shema on the doorposts, which literally you would think means, oh, you've got to write it on the door. But as we know, without going into all the details that the rabbis learn out, it doesn't mean you actually literally write it on the door. It means that you write it on a piece of parchment that we've already seen over there. You write it in ink and you write it with a quill, and then you roll it up and put it on your door. Now, a lot of people kiss the mezuzah. Actually, if you go through the halacha, kissing the mezuzahs is a very, very new phenomenon. The original the original way of doing it was when you walked through a door that had a mezuzah on it, you would stop and think, hello, mezuzah. And that means I think about Shema, it means I think about God, it means I think about my position in the world, and therefore you give yourself a little bit of a boost of godliness and spirituality. Then as the generations went on, people were just not doing that, right? You just walk through the doors and there was not enough of a reason to prompt your mind to think that way. So the rabbi said, okay, so put your hand on the mezuzah. That's enough of a stop. Stop what you're doing for 2 seconds. You put your hand on the mezuzah and then, oh yes, mezuzah, God, Shema, Yisrael, and you think a few seconds about godliness and about God, and that was enough. Then people were just putting their hands on the mezuzahs and forgetting what was all about and just walking on. So they thought, we have to try and prompt you in a different way. So you put your hand on and you kiss it. And you think, so why am I kissing? What do we just go around kissing walls or kissing stuff? I'm kissing the mezuzah, right? Godliness, holiness, and so on and so forth. So the main idea is not the kissing of the mezuzah per se. It's what you're supposed to think about when you walk through the mezuzah. A lot of people have a custom when they leave their house. They say there's a special prayer, which is, I won't say the full name of Hashem, Shakai, which is Shin Dalad Yud, Tatileni me Yetzer Hara, should save me from the evil inclination, because Shakai, the Shin Dalad Yud name of Hashem, is written on the back of the mezuzah. So that's one of the names. Again, a full understanding of that is beyond my comprehension. Different names of Hashem and so on and so forth represent different ideas. And people offer a prayer as they leave, and so on and so forth. A mezuzah is something that needs to go on every doorway. And you would be amazed to know how many people make this mistake. They think, okay, I've got one mezuzah on the front door of my house. That's one mitzvah. But really, every mitzvah, every doorway has a mitzvah. Now, Floridian houses...
Except for bathrooms.
Except for bathrooms.
Closet.
Depends how big they are and so on. Right? So there are exceptions. But I must say, Floridian houses... and I've been in many of them because people have invited me in to look at questions. Floridian houses, and I've not seen houses all over the world, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to say it's only Floridian houses. But Floridian houses have a lot of phenomenons in them that represent lots of issues for... right, you have arches, you have very little doorways, you have a lot of open plan areas, and you have changing of ceilings and changing of walls and going around, which represent difficult halachic questions, and there is big debates amongst the rabbis, as if you have walls that come to a stop and then turn 90 degrees, so it looks like you have an archway, but you don't have any doorways or any lintels or any something like that. Do they need a mezuzah on them? And there's a whole debate, if it turns to the right, if it turns to the left, which way it goes, if there's a lintel. So there are many halachic questions that go involved in working it out beyond the scope of this little talk.
If you have that wall, as you said, but this direction is one room and that direction is another room.
Right, you're talking about if one wall stays straight and only one wall turns. Exactly. So then you have a big question. So they say if it's the wall on the right-hand side, that's turning right-handed, but the left wall is going straight, then you do put a mezuzah. Some people say it's the other way around. These are big questions as to what to do, and whether a shul needs a mezuzah or not, because you have the Torahs. Those who were here at our initial inauguration, when we put the mezuzahs on, will know that we did something very weird. We did not put the mezuzahs on the front doors first and make the bracha. We put the mezuzah on the kitchen door first. Why? Because that's a mezuzah that's a door that we needed to make a bracha on, because that's not part of the shul. That's got a separate, it's not part of the shul, but it's not the shul building. And it has a separate use from a shul. And therefore, we could make a bracha on that door. But a lot of people would say if you're putting a bracha, a mezuzah on the door of a shul that has mezuzahs, that has a Torah in it, nobody sleeps in the shul, it's not supposed to be slept in. Therefore, is it really considered a house? Again, talking about people's offices. Well, do you say, I never sleep in my office? You're never there overnight. So there are a lot of questions as to that. Ramosha, do you have a mezuzah on your trailer, just out of interest?
I do. Because
Right.
I live in it for months at a time.
Right.
So it's not like a Dira Sarai,
Right. So
a temporary dwelling.
So there are lots of questions and a lot of things that go into it. So Rabbi Moshe has a mobile home, and again, that's one of the questions: does a mobile home need a mezuzah? Does a car need a mezuzah? No, you don't live in your car, right? You drive it. Some people may be in it for many, many hours, but you don't live in your car. It's not a living space necessarily. Whereas if you're living, like you say, for months on end and sleeping in your, or it's designed to be slept in. I mean, you can sleep in your car. People do if they're driving to New York, whatever. So there's many questions that get involved. But I do want to finish off with something that a lot of people don't realize. And we all know that the mezuzah parchment has to be put in geniza, has to be buried. We all know that. However, what a lot of people don't realize is the halacha is anything that is directly in contact with the mezuzah. It's called the tashmishik, something that protects the mezuzah. So most mezuzahs also has to be buried. So most mezuzahs are wrapped in a type of saran wrap or plastic or so on and so forth. So when you take that off to check the mezuzah, that also needs to be buried, because that is the one that's immediately wrapped the mezuzah. A lot of people don't realize that, and they just assume we'll just throw that away. No, that also needs to be buried. There is a question about the mezuzah case, because if you have the mezuzah and you wrap it in saran wrap, then the case is twice removed from in the same way as you have your tefillin. So the boxes of the tefillin also need to be buried as well. Some people say then the case that you put the tefillin in also need to be buried, because it's a secondary thing, but then the outer case doesn't, because you're getting more and more levels away. So some people say the cases also need to be buried, because they directly touch the mezuzah as well. So that's
the same thing with tefillin bags.
right. As we said, take tefillin bags. But it's very important that everybody agrees that the saran wrap, plastic, whatever it is, or stuff that is immediately wrapped the mezuzah has to be buried. Now, if you take it to a sofer and he's unwrapping it and putting a new one, he's obviously burying it. But people, if you're moving, you take it out, your mezuzahs are ruined. After hurricanes, you would be amazed. I check my mezuzahs, on the outside mezuzahs, I've got waterproof cases and all the mod cons for my outside mezuzahs, but they still get ruined. The amount of rain and it's set over the winters. Yeah, my indoor mezuzahs are fine. They're in air conditioned and so on. But the outside mezuzahs, with the heat and the humidity and the intense rains that we get, maybe Ramosha can come up with a completely watertight, but then if it's watertight, it's going to get humid and it's going to start cracking. Too. Exactly. So unfortunately, there is no
Gore-Tex.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would let the air in and not let the water in. Yeah.
Right. So
but that, it's going to cost you an extra $1,000.
Right. So outside mezuzahs, especially once we have big storms in the summer, need to be looked at and so on. The rabbi once told me, do not check the mezuzahs in your house, even every 2 and 7 years. That Allah says, just leave those alone. He said, but you need to, because I can show you, I've had things that have been ruined with water and heat cracking and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Rabbi, can I say something?
Yeah.
So many years ago, I used to work at a Jewish bookstore and gift shop, and people would come in and they'd ask for mezuzah. Well, when I would point to the mezuzah, they said, no, the case.
They think,
I can't tell you how many people had no idea that the mezuzah was actually the thing inside.
True.
The case. Spend a lot of money.
It's happened to me twice when people have asked me to come and look at the mezuzahs, put new mezuzahs up. I've taken off the case. Yeah, usually it's the ones that are very small. People have these metal ones on the doors that have been there for ages. You take those off, and there's usually nothing in those. Yeah.
Yeah. The bigger problem is when you sometimes go in and you buy a mezuzah cover. It comes with a mezuzah inside, which is paper.
Yes, so Moshe has looked at several of mine that I bought and seen, and he has said that they are paper and so on. There's a lot of fraud going on. And as Rabbi Moshe will tell you, the frauds are getting better and better and harder for.
Jewish store owners.
No, they don't know because they come in packages.
They buy them.
They buy them and it comes in packages. So the stores don't know. You know, they come, you know. You get a shipment of 20 mezuzahs from Israel, you're not going to go and open and check every one, so you're assuming it's good, you know.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I assume that the cloth isn't kosher. I always look first.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now
You ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get this completely in here, but I got it mostly in here. You see, it's almost the same color. The gallic acid's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you watch carefully, and
What's this going in?
This is vitriol.
Oh. Ooh.
Oh, there it goes.
Ah, it's turning black.
Oh.
And I'm going to mix it up, and
Oh.
voila.
So you know the word vitriol, you're not surprised that it's turning black.
Yeah.
So what I normally add, but I did not bring, we're going to let this sit for a little bit, is I like to add a little bit of Malaga wine because it makes the letters have a nice little sheen to them. You know, they it looks pretty nice. So we're going to let this go.
Does this get thicker? Does it thicken up?
It will actually get darker. It's a chemical reaction that goes pretty fast, but the last part of it goes very, very slow and takes a long time to complete. So this is our DO. We're going to let it sit here and boil a little bit. Hopefully, we'll be able to use some of that after we come back.
Wow.
We're going to all get up and, if you can, we're going to go to.
Try not to trip over the wire. That is.
And we're going to take a look at the Sefer Torah that's on the orange.
Oh, somebody's at the door.
Ah, hello, Gil.
Okay, she can.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Gil. How are you? Welcome. We've just made ink from scratch. And now we're going to look at the Torah. Yes. So let's see. So if I put this here. Okay. Gordon, we have your Torah out ready to be looked at.
So do we have to form a corporation?
Why?
We have ink.
Oh,
Oh my goodness,
Took you a while.
No. I got that one.
we got it.
So,
I've never seen it.
I've never
All these
really
years.
done a close examination of the Sefer Torah.
see, this is Gordon Sefer Torah. Gordon over there. Gordon and Barbara Rosen.
So I'm gonna switch this around a little bit. Could you stay right there, Rabbi?
Yeah.
Take this side
Yep.
and lift it up and over. Okay. So you see, there are pieces of cloth that are all put together to make up a Sefer Torah. And I'm starting on the back because it's interesting. So today you buy these little Band-Aids, okay? They're not Band-Aids. They're made out of actual cloth. They're for a Sefer Torah. But they look like a Band-Aid. You open them up, you see you can split them and you put them between here. The reason you do that is so the Sefer Torah, when the guy doesn't do Hagbah correctly and one end goes this way and the other, when he does it correctly, but it slips, whatever, this kind of holds it all together.
Yes.
Now, you see here also, the Sefer Torah is bent. You see, somebody had to actually bend these two pieces. You see how this is done? One's bent over, you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what you do is, it has to be sewn together. Now, sewing together is my least favorite thing because it's very time consuming. It could take me 10 minutes just to sew this, up. And I do it with a needle. Some poskim don't like you to use a needle. They want you to use something that's not metal. What usually happens is I end up breaking those and they cost a lot of money. So I've stopped doing that.
So how can you do it without a needle?
I do. I use a metal needle and I do just fine. Thank you. Now, what you sew it with is something called gid. Okay. What's gid made out of?
Sinew.
What is sinew in English?
Muscle.
What?
The veins.
Veins. Yes,
Sinews, vein?
yes, it is.
Careful.
So what happens is, and I've seen this done when I lived in Eretz Israel. The guys would take the veins. It has to come from a kosherly slaughtered animal. They're removed, and they would sort of let them dry out, and they would leave them in water. And the old guys would take them between their front teeth and pull them and twist them and pull them and twist them. And they put one together, and they have to put another. And you can see there's a whole bunch of them. And this stuff is whopping expensive. This might be maybe close to $200 worth of give. You can touch that and feel it. It's not
tennis racket,
particularly
Oh, the strings, right.
right.
Oh,
And
you
then-
never told us how much a piece
Where's
of
the
cloth costs.
custom
I
tennis
don't
racket?
know. I've never bought a piece
Well, the
of
strings
cloth.
can be some strings
I
that are.
bought like a
very
cloth
expensive.
of a Sefer Torah,
They're really good. you know?
and it might have been like $1,500 a cloth,
real.
2,000 something.
But that was already written on.
It was already written. Yes,
Real should have been-
we'll get there in a minute. So okay, so these are the matlitin, and this is the gid. Okay, we're gonna flip it back the other way.
Okay, you ready?
Yes. we are. Okay, so I opened here because so you could see this, and you could see how it's stitched all the way up and down in here. What this is especially in old Torahs, this happens a lot. It'll break, it gets fragile, and then this will rip apart, and you have to repair it. And if you don't do it right, the reason it's folded over is to hide the stitch. Otherwise, when you roll it, you would scratch across here.
This Torah is 185 years old.
This Torah,
This one.
Oh, wow.
it looks it. But I'll tell you something. Okay,
Probably not old.
and they did a study in maybe 1980, late 1980s, I think it was, where when the scanners started coming in, okay, it was around that time, they built these big scanners for starting to look at Sefer Torahs and finding out if there were errors in them. And Torahs that were written before 1930 and those written after 1930, they found that 80% of the ones before 1930 were kosher, and only 20% of the ones after 1930 they were always finding problems in them because they don't think they spent enough time and energy and whatnot to really do the work, because it takes a long time. Now, what will happen today, this probably, if it was that old, did not happen.
Sorry,
Is-
280.
I did the math wrong. It's 280.
So
Oh, wow.
in a Sefer Torah like this would have been written by one sofer. That's it. Because maybe your town didn't even have one, right? You might have to go 3 towns away to find somebody. Today, it's not done like that at all. Today, it's done in a way that a guy who knows, let's say, the first cloth in Bereshis can do a lot of them in a year, but if you had to do a whole Sefer Torah, it would take him forever. And then what happens is, after they collect all the different clothim, what they do is they send it to another person, right? A special group that just puts them all together, because they're pretty fast at doing that.
But don't people have different?
I was about to
You
say
will
that.
see
can tell it's very
in
clear,
these,
yeah.
in some of the Sefer Torah we have in there, the handwriting here and here between
Yeah.
cloth and cloth is different.
Wow.
This is pretty much the same. So
But is
I'm
that kosher? Is it still kosher?
sure.
But it just doesn't seem right.
Well, it might not
One
seem
more.
right, but it's good. And it's cheaper.
Yes,
Yeah,
when
how
you're
much
laying
is-
it, you can definitely
how-
tell. All of a sudden, you move around clown, they say, oh, this writing is much
How
harder
much
to
do you
read.
think a Sefer Torah costs?
$10,000?
No,
Oh,
no,
much
no,
more.
no.
Maybe
50.
before I was
Huh?
born.
Get
Yeah,
that cake.
Gordon, tell them how much it
50,000
costs.
100 and more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could spend maybe up to maybe $180,000
Yeah.
for a
What
Sefer
happened
Torah.
to yours?
But you think about it, for
Oh,
a sofer to write a Sefer Torah takes them 9 months to a year, maybe more.
That's right.
So they got to make their money in a year.
After my
And
mother,
you imagine you have to rest your hand in between here and there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's not like you could do this 8 hours a day.
After
every
my
day.
No, you
mother
can't,
had passed
if
and I
you do it 8
wanted-
hours a day, you'll go crazy. Just like any job you do, right?
After his mother passed, he wanted.
I wanted to dedicate something that would hang around long after she went and I went and my brother and sister. So I commissioned a sofa, Rabbi Schneid.
But you found that.
Which
Oh,
Schneid? In Muncie?
Yes.
I know him.
Uh-huh.
He's a good guy.
It was on Jill Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
so-
commissioned him to find the Torah that came from the same village that my mother came from.
Wow.
And if he could research it from the same, at least the same rabbi, if not
Yeah.
the same software,
That's special.
so that I would have something that was genuine.
Really connected.
And he was able to find this Torah. He called me one day very excited, and he said, you know, the only hassle was we've got to fly over and get it. And I was working in the aviation business, so flying over was no big deal.
Wow.
So I like to do some what I call Torah tidbits. Just a few things about Sefer Torah. Unless anybody has questions on anything we talked about so far. No? Okay. A Sefer Torah must be written by a sofer, right? You have to be trained to do it. All materials for the Sefer Torah, we discussed it, the cloth. Ink actually doesn't have to be made lishma, but it can't be made with non-kosher ingredients. There are 304,805 letters in a Sefer Torah. If only one letter is missing in the whole Torah, no good.
Puzzle.
If there's an extra letter, no good.
Puzzle.
If you have an aleph and somebody put a hey there, no good. There are 248 umadim. Okay, that's just an omid, right? 248. Okay,
Does that depend how big your writing is, or it's standard
that's
248?
standard. Each column has 42 lines in it. That's standard. And the spacing between the words and paragraphs have to meet a certain standard. I don't want to get into all the details. I wanted to make this fun. No one letter can touch another letter. There are 22 letters and 5 final letters in the Hebrew alphabet, so you have to get them all right.
Mm-hmm.
The most common letter in the Torah is a
Vav.
what?
A vav.
Yud.
Oh.
As you would know, you're lame. There's only 31,530. You must have counted them all. The least common letter is a
Sadi.
Zion?
Hey.
Tet.
what?
Tet.
Tet. Oh man, how many are there? 1,802.
And that's the least common. Wow.
Right.
The only good thing is if while you're writing the Torah, you make a mistake, you're allowed to fix it at that point. So you don't throw the Torah away. If you make a mistake while writing it, you're allowed to fix it.
Now, there's no erasing, so how do you fix it?
You scrape it off
With a
and you
razor.
rewrite it. And it gets very complicated on some things like
Hashem's name and things.
Hashem's name and whatnot. Okay,
What about the one word that's different?
the one word that's
I was
different.
taught
For the
that there's-
creatives?
There is
Yeah.
one word. It's a difference between a final aleph and a final hey, if I remember correctly. Pronounced the same, means the same, but there's a difference of opinion whether which is
A
correct.
creative stuff.
Okay, that's what
Yes.
my friend told me.
There are
It's been leaning for
many
over
more
70
in Tanakh, in Nevi'im and Suvim. Okay, what is the most common final letter in the Torah?
Final.
10,623.
Ma'am?
None.
Man,
Man.
Ooh.
wow. And the least common final letter?
Fey.
Oh, how many?
7.
834.
834.
Not that far, Rabbi.
Not that far. The Torah must be
Close enough for government work.
The Torah must be handwritten. It can't be printed. It has to be on cloth. Okay? We talked about the parchment being kosher. The ink and all the ingredients have to be kosher. We talked about the giddin, right? It all has to come from a kosher animal. The quill. Oh, this is a very interesting one. The quill, right, according to most posting, must be from a kosher bird. So
Makes sense.
I'll tell you a story that happened to me if I could digress for a minute. This
Is this the one from Canada?
is from Canada.
Or is there a tariff on them now?
What?
25% on
No, this
Oh,
was a
in
couple years
Tagish.
ago. I was in a place called Tagish. Maybe if 100 people live in Tagish, I'd be surprised. It's probably not more than 20 or 30.
Wow.
And I was fishing with a guy who is what they call their First Nations guy, you know.
Okay.
And so we were out, you know, and how somehow he was telling about his customs and religion. I was telling about mine. And then so we were talking about Sefer Torah. I said, you know, it has to be written by hand. And I said, I use a quill. She says, oh, let me help you out, right? And it turned out we were on this river. I don't remember the name of it, but the eagles were molting, right? They were giving up their feathers.
Oh.
So he came by and he gave me some eagle feathers. I thought, oh, that's great. You know, I didn't think about it at the time.
The eagle's not a kosher bird.
It's not a kosher bird. That's correct. So, but what happened
Or
was,
bird of
this was a bird of prey.
Yes.
So what happened was, I got to Cheyenne and I ran into an Indian expert. And I said to him, I wanted to make something with the feathers. He says, you can't make anything with those feathers. I said, why not?
Oh, it's an endangered species.
By law, like in the 1940s or early 50s, there's a $250,000 fine for using any part of an eagle, whether you found it dead or alive.
Gee, willikers.
I still have the feather, but I don't show it to anybody. Okay.
Do the feathers start to dissolve? What's the word? They
No.
rot and
No, they stay good
No?
forever. As long as you don't, you know. Okay. Here's another one. You must write with your right hand if you're right-handed, or left-handed if you're left-handed. You're not allowed to go back and forth. So that's all the ones I have.
I wonder
right
if
now.
robots.
Did you
We
make
train
copies for
robots
us?
to write
No,
Torah.
I
it has
did
to be
not.
human.
I did not. This is for me.
Does it have to be a human?
It's to be human.
Yes, I mentioned that before.
So that's
So we
why
can't use robots?
No. But
Like a
that-
human-style
it's-
robot?
It's like printing.
No, you cannot.
Hmm.
There are no post-game allowed for that.
Now, I
Even
did
if the
see
robots can
something-
talk and eat and walk
I
around.
saw something in
make a minion.
Israel where the sofa had what I would call a
I
light
didn't
box
think you were so liberal.
underneath,
We could give
Yeah.
him a
so he was
wrist,
able to kind of trace it.
Oh,
take
Is
him to
that
the mikveh.
allowed?
Yes.
no, you short circuit him.
Sort of.
Or
Let
it.
me just explain something. A kosher Sefer Torah must be written from a previous kosher Sefer Torah. Well, that extension is way out there now, because what people do is they'll take a section from a Sefer Torah, make a photocopy of that, blow it up real big, and they'll cut it into different sections and lay it all out, right? So it's not like they're actually writing from a Sefer Torah,
I'm a copy
but
of
they're
it.
a copy or, you know, whatever. So there
Understand.
are leniencies. There are very few people I've seen today, and maybe in Eretz Yisrael there are more, but who actually do it from an actual Sefer.
That's why they have the Tikkun Sofrims that they have.
Oh,
that
do you know
use.
that one, that first one that came out in blue? I remember going to that, like, first time I picked it up. Oh, there's a mistake in it.
Oh,
But-
Yes.
So there are mistakes in
Yes,
there. I think I
was
found
told
2 or
that
3.
Also,
But wait, so when you say
'Cause I have the
from-
same-
from
I
an
have the
existing
same one.
Sefer Torah,
Oh.
You mean it's sitting over here and I'm over here and I'm looking at it as I'm writing?
That's the way it was done. I would say when I started learning to do software, that was, oh, thank you. That was not the case. Most people would blow it up or have photocopies or other ways of doing it. It's less problematic. You don't have to deal with open Sefer Torah and whatnot. So they're very, I'd say it's much rarer now. Okay, so I would like to go back.
oh yes, our ink should be ready.
And I would like to show you guys how.
Oh, one last question before we photos.
Uh.
Are the Atzechaim, the woods, are they expensive?
Generally, yes, because they're made out of super hardwoods. And I have a guy who makes them for a living, and they could cost from $400 up to whatever you want to pay.
The Eish Chaim on this Torah cost $800.
Oh, you had new ones put on?
Okay, can we just leave it here for now?
Was it you or was it another sofa who told me they should never put crowns on the Torah, never leave the crowns because it ruins the wood?
It does
The weight
tear it up. I don't
ruins
know if I
the,
said that, but
Rabbi Scribe told me not to put,
yeah.
okay.
put metal on.
They said only put it on when you're walking around with it. Because the weight is.
So they said, wait to put on the crown?
We're going to do the drawing when we finished. Yeah, you can buy tickets. Yes, $20 for one, $50 for three. To win $500 Glicks gift card. Drawing soon. Yep, we're going to do it.
Now he's drawing out the ink.
Okay, so, oh, where are they? Where are they?
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for shot glasses.
Plastic shot glasses.
Okay, we have shot glasses here.
Yeah, but if they're plastic,
I have a whole bunch of them.
Yes, plastic shot glasses.
oh, he's got plastic ones, yeah.
I had a whole bunch of them. Okay. Yes, bring me your shot glasses.
You're tired, you're
Right,
poor.
but then we need
Your
to have our
your
federal
district judges need to read the Constitution.
If someone wants to store it in their home, if they
There's
go
been
away.
causes that have forgotten about that.
Okay.
Okay, so let's,
Did you need the shot glasses?
yeah, let's, are they hard plastic?
You tell me.
Yes, they're hard plastic. They may or may not work. We will see in a minute.
Oh, those soft.
Okay, so
Do you want a cup that you can pour with a spout?
I don't need one because I have
You
a
know
shot.
what's different from what I bought, because I bought soft ones. Those were here, and then I bought
Let's see
some
how bad this stuff
on
is.
Saturday.
I thought you want hard ones, not soft ones.
No, I think you want soft ones, not hard ones.
If the soft ones may, we'll try it. We'll see what happens. Just,
No,
Are those soft ones?
too big.
it's okay. They're good.
He likes those.
Okay. Maybe, I
Oh, those might work.
have paper. Where's my
And you
paper?
got these, so you got a choice.
Okay, is there any paper? Oh, I brought paper. Where is it?
This is good.
Oh, I brought paper. I don't see where it went to.
Maybe the rabbi has a printer paper.
Do you have any printer paper?
Does it have to be paper with nothing written on it?
No, but
He's got cards here.
A printer paper, so.
I know, I don't have any paper.
No, no, I think you need to.
Okay.
Other stuff,
There's no office here, so.
and you're very good at it.
Okay. So. let's see.
Oh, this card is great.
Oh, my goodness.
Here's a couple of pieces of paper with.
This really hasn't set up very good.
It's got my Yom Kippur Avoda on the back of it.
Um,
Here's a spare piece of paper.
You're gonna need a lot more than one.
Well, we can-
Here, I'll tell you what, never mind.
Here's what we'll do.
Maybe we could just give these little cards out.
Or what about the back of these tickets?
Let's do the cards.
Since they use, actually, they don't have a date on them, do they?
Pass them around here.
If you
Um,
don't have a date, you can use them for next year.
I mean,
It says March the 30th, yeah.
Well, you can use them for next year.
okay, this is already CBO, it's already,
Bigger, you mean?
You could.
maybe this stuff will work better. I'll have to see how.
It's like all the cooking shows, they have some that they make and some that's already made.
My favorite cooking show was the one years ago with the young lady with the really squeaky voice. Ready, Set, Cook. That was what it was called.
Sharon, is this big enough for you?
Yes, it is. To really shake it up.
Okay, if everybody could just kind of, what happened to the one piece of paper?
I tore it up into several smaller pieces, but here.
Okay, so, could you give me
You actually writing?
this piece of paper right there in front of you?
Yes, sir.
No, they had a good point that you should give
Okay,
5.
so if everybody could just kind of gather around for a minute And then we'll go ahead and I'm gonna show you how to do some writing. Let's try this one. See if this stuff's any good. Okay. This stuff is probably a little bit on the light side. I sometimes thicken it up. So I made a couple of quills, and these are just kind of bare, but you can still use them. So what I'll do is you're gonna have to dip it in here a few times to look what ink will kind of set on there. Now, there are basically, I would say, really two parts to almost doing any letter in Hebrew. So the first one is the yud. If anybody has one of these papers or whatever and find the yud here, you can see what I'll do is there are two types of lines you can do. You could do a line where you do it straight, and I'll just do this. See, I can do a straight line. Or I can do something where I kind of come in, open it up, make it wide, and then thin again. You see how you can do that?
Wow.
What kind
Okay.
of bird is this from?
What?
These look like goose feathers.
They're goose feathers. Okay, so that's basically, or you can do it straight and then come and make it thick at the bottom, you see? But you can't make it any wider than the quill itself, but you get the idea. This isn't the best paper to work on. It's not like parchment,
What
okay?
kind of quill do you use yourself?
I use one just like
Just like
this,
this?
but I cheat. I'll show you in a minute how what I do.
Do some of them have like their favorite quill that they love, and any other quill is not quite the same, or?
No, I'll show you what I do in a couple minutes. I want to get everybody started so they can try. So the way you do a yud is you put your pen straight up and down. You're going to make a little mark. Okay, this is kind of thick, this ink, it's watery. Then I'm going to come across. You see how I make that? And then I'm going to come in and pull it down. You see how I did that? It's almost like a line, but it's not the best work, but you get the idea. So you could do a little line across and then come down to make your yud. Can everybody see that, what I did?
Yeah.
Now, then you can get really fancy, okay? You could do the same thing, for example, do this, do your yud, but wait a minute, and you come down here and what do you have?
You have both.
Right?
Both.
And you could do this with most letters, right? You do a Zion, for example, it's a little bit different, right? You're gonna come in here, you're gonna put a line here, and then when you're gonna come down, you're gonna do usually something like a little bit crooked, okay? And some people put these, they're called tagim, but you get the idea. I'm just trying to show you how to do it. Okay, when you get to, let's say, a hay is just a cross, right? Then not at the end, just a little bit over, you come down, and then you can come down, that's your hay, okay? And this is all kind of written in here. Then you get into more complicated ones like, a gimel, okay? So if you want to write a gimel or any of the other letters, I'll be happy to help you. They're all written out here. What I suggest you do is take a little cup. I'll give people cups, and you can have a quill, and I'll come around and could you give me more of those cups? Right by
And then when the Yiddish cup.
Larry, could I have a cup?
Of course.
How
Be
do you
careful,
get
this is hot.
the
Okay,
thick
let's
part
end the
so thick?
broadcast.
When the thickest part is-
Okay.
Okay, so I might need to open it up a little bit.
Evil Barbara.
Like anybody.
Right, for your